Hello and welcome to another Vegan Primary Care live session. All right, this is Dr. Scott Harrington coming to you live from my doctor's office at veganprimarycare.com, where you can see a vegan doctor as your primary care doctor from the comfort of your own home from most U.S. states. If you happen to live in Florida, then I'm also open for in-person visits on Fridays in Pinellas Park, just north of St. Petersburg. Come see me not just as a one-time consultation, but as your primary care doctor, someone who gets to know you and someone who can be your health advocate. Because I'm licensed in most US states, even if you move, you don't have to change doctors. If you are vegan, then get a doctor who gets you. If you haven't adopted a plant-based diet yet, you are still welcome to be my patient. But beware, a healthy vegan diet, exercise, and lifestyle changes will always be my first recommendation. My goal is to help you take control of your health. And through the power of a healthy lifestyle, we will work to heal your chronic conditions with the ultimate goal of helping you come off your chronic medications if possible. For my patients who cut out animal products altogether, you will not only be helping yourself feel better, but you will also do your part to stop animal suffering and to decrease your impact on the environment. Once again, in other announcements, we're offering vegan primary care patients free weekly weight loss check-ins with a weight loss accountability visit on a private Zoom meeting on Tuesday nights, 7 p.m. Eastern, where you can share your weight loss tips with the group and with the vegan primary care community. Remember that this content is for educational and entertainment purposes only. This video is not intended to take place of your own doctor's advice. Okay, we are live streaming to multiple platforms and ready to take your questions. Hey, everybody, how's it going? Awesome, awesome. Thanks for smashing the likes. Thanks for smashing the likes. If you're on YouTube, subscribe. Go ahead. All right. Okay, let me go over to the message section, the comments. Hello. So Tamara Sergi says, hello, Dr. Vegan. Hey, Tamara. Okay, Tamara says, Mom says hi. All right, all right. Tell her I said hello back. Okay, all right. We've got Amanda saying, oh, Amanda, she says, hoping you take FEP Anthem soon. I'm so sorry. We don't have Anthem yet. We're working on Blue Cross and United, and it's been a long time coming. It's so sad. We have Cigna, we have Aetna, TRICARE, which is TRICARE East, and we have Medicare. All right. Okay. Comments are coming in. Thank you so much. Feel free. Throw in a comment. Any question you're wondering about the plant-based diet. Get a doctor who gets you in 2022. We people are wanting to get healthy, so they're really, really pumped, and we're getting a lot of appointment requests and things like that, right? So get in while you still can. Happy birthday or Happy New Year, Dr. Harrington from Purity and Plants. All right, thank you. Happy New Year to you too. Okay, we've got Michelle Corinne. Hello. All right, here we go. Karen Bliss, first question. Is iodine intake by food like nori or dulse flakes once a week sufficient, or does it require daily intake? I think that weekly is probably reasonable. Once or twice a week of having these types of things. I mean, if you imagine that, our body has the ability to adapt. For instance, out in nature, certain things would bloom at certain times, certain fruit would be available at certain times. And so, you may not have access to every single nutrient every day all the time. So, weekly is totally reasonable, once or twice a week. And dulse is a very powerful, or it has adequate iodine for sure. Nori and dulse flakes are a great source of dietary iodine without having to use salt. 1 pinch of salt is about 75 micrograms, half your daily dose. 150 is typical dose you want to try to hit for your daily amount. Pregnant women would require 225, so a little bit more. You don't really want to bust your daily intake over 500 micrograms routinely, where you're taking that all the time, because you will cause too much iodine in the thyroid. Thank you so much, Karen, for that question. I think once or twice a week is totally sufficient. Okay, we've got Rena. Are wrist blood pressure cuff devices reliable? I couldn't find one with an appropriate size big arm wrap. Okay, Rena, this is a problem. The wrist ones, you kind of worry that you'll get a variety of numbers. I've heard that they are less reliable, and even in my own experience, so, I'll do a regular cuff, and then I'll do a wrist cuff, and I'll see that it will be like much higher. And so I wonder about the accuracy of the wrist cuffs, honestly. But if it's the only one that you have access to, and you have high blood pressure, I recommend you use it so that something, so you're monitoring, and when you see your doctor, you can bring your wrist cuff in and kind of calibrate, see where it lands. So yeah, if it's all you have, then that's what you should use. You can go on Amazon, and you can measure the width of your the circumference of your arm, your upper arm, and you can look for an adult cuff that's large enough to fit. So yeah, that's a big problem. I believe if you get one that's too small, you're inappropriately high blood pressure readings. And so that's important that you get the right size. Good question, Rena. Good question. Okay, Sherry Taylor says hi. Karen Hodgins, Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you too. Thanks for being on today. Okay, so I wanted to say, back to Rena about the question about the blood pressure cuff. One of my sayings about my sort of philosophies for patient care, back in the day, everything used to be paternalistic so much, where I'm the doctor, I'm in charge here, you're going to do what I say because I know what's best. And nowadays we're trying to get away from that sort of paternal attitude about medicine. And basically it's a patient-centered approach where the patient is in charge of their own health. And, they're, responsible for their own health. But in that way, it's nice. We have lots of home blood pressure cuffs and home monitoring systems. And nowadays, there's the watches and so you can really take charge of your health. What your numbers are doing, and you can reflect, hey, I ate this or that, and now my blood pressure is really high. I had a real salty meal, and now I feel achy and I feel swollen. And oh, by the way, my blood pressure's up. And that way you can monitor your and get good feedback. So yeah, so my philosophy is that the patient really is in charge of their own health, and I'm their patient advisor. Sometimes I'll say, you're the king or you're the queen, and I'm the queen's advisor or king's advisor, something like that. Okay. All right. So we've got Vida Liberata. Could psoriasis skin symptoms or psoriatic arthritis be improved with a vegan whole food diet? Okay. So the answer is yes. Anecdotally, yes. I've seen people improve with the psoriatic arthritis symptoms. The psoriasis symptoms, I've had sort of mixed responses. Sometimes people will dramatically improve many times people dramatically improve their autoimmune illnesses, including things like psoriasis and psoriatic arthritis. There was a movie, Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead. He was covered with psoriasis, and he went on these juice fasts and lost a lot of weight, and then his psoriasis didn't flare up again. But I know some vegans who are strict and super, low fat, plant-based, and still will have flares of their psoriasis. So it's, you wonder what sort of antibody is affecting the skin. And if it could be something in the diet that might be a normal food that you're eating also flaring it up, or just the idea of autoimmune diseases oftentimes get better when you're fasting. But then when you eat even normal food, sometimes it will flare the flames back up. So sometimes if people have enough weight that they can fast, I will recommend people do water fasts. If it's over 5 days, you're going to want to have a medically over 3 to 5 days, you want to have a medically supervised fast. But you can go on a fast, and the inflammation will come down dramatically. So sometimes I'll suggest it's almost like putting out the fire. Yes, the fire will start to simmer back up, but you can periodically go on a short fast and make it simmer back down, and you kind of start all over. So I can't promise you 100% that the skin and manifestations will improve, but most of the time that people will, if they go on a very, very low fat vegan diet, they will improve much of their autoimmune illnesses. And so that's been seen widely in throughout case studies and throughout my experience. Dr. Furman has a book called Super Immunity, where basically he's talking about whole food plant-based diet, his version, nutritarian diet, in helping with these symptoms. So absolutely. Okay, Purity in Plant says, what are your thoughts about using coconut oil and oil for oil pulling? Okay, so for oil pulling, I think this is talking about using oil products. I'm going to look this up. I believe it's for using the products in the mouth, using it like a mouthwash. And okay, so I haven't seen any evidence or feedback in this regard to oil pulling as like a health benefit. I'm assuming what the assumption is, it's pulling out some sort of impurities or this sort of thing. I definitely don't recommend ingesting the oil in any way. Of course, you're hearing me talk about a low-fat diet with no added oil. No added oil. Oil is liquid fat, and it's bad. You don't even want to drop. Don't even want to drop of that liquid oil. Avoid it. Cook with non-stick pans and use silicone mats and when you're cooking, because it's just liquid fat and it's devoid of its other nutrients that allow for it to be slowly absorbed, and the antioxidants that protect the inflammation that occurs when you have oil. So I know I'm talking on another subject. I honestly don't know any evidence about oil pulling. It's something that I'm going to have to get smarter on. So, but it's always good to stump the doctor. Purity in Plants. Good stuff. A lot of times with my patients, if they come up with something that I haven't heard about, I'm excited. I'm excited because, I'm not Superman or anything, I'm only human, and we all are experts in certain things. And so I look forward to like working together with patients and things and investigating. And I try to help to sanity check things. Like if someone comes at them with a very expensive supplement or something, we try to look up the evidence to see if it would make sense for the certain expense that you would undergo. So that's what I know about that. Purity in Plants. Okay. So Sherry Taylor says, does nutritional yeast provide enough B12? Okay, so short answer before I look this up is I'm going to say no. Nutritional yeast. The long answer is, okay, it says in this study, nutritional yeast contained 5 micrograms of B12 per tablespoon. Okay, so the reason why I say the short answer is no is because the long answer is kind of like, well, yes, technically, because I think the micrograms per day that you need for B12 is something like 2.6 micrograms, which is an insanely small dose. But the problem with the B12 is absorption. And it should be taken on an empty stomach. You get better absorption. And so I don't like for my vegan patients to play around with B12, especially females who are in who are in childbearing age, because if you're sort of mildly deficient and then you get pregnant, then you're sort of trying to catch up. So I recommend, since you're not getting it in your food other than things like nutritional yeast, which would have sort of a small amount, I recommend for most people, 500 microgram B12 on an empty stomach. So what you do is you keep it by your toothbrush. You keep it in the bathroom. Most B12 is very stable and cheap, and you can get a significant amount for a low price, $5 to $10, and so you keep it in your bathroom. You can get the 1,000 milligrams, and you can break them in half, and you can double up your amount of B12 for the same cost. And you take it on an empty stomach, and then so that way you're kind of more guaranteed. I worry with the absorption with it in the nutritional yeast, and so I want my patients to be sort of double covered. All right, good question, Sherry. Good question. Okay. All right, so we've got Alexis Ford Green. Hello from Alabama. All right. Hello, Alexis. Okay, we've got Erica Appleseed. How can I have low iron if I eat a pound of fresh greens a day in a smoothie, even if I eat a lot of iron-rich foods? Do tests maybe only measure heme iron? Thanks for any help. Okay. Erica, well, so the question is, do you actually have low iron? So when we get tests, oftentimes there's primary tests and secondary tests. Primary test. So the primary test that we get for whether someone is anemic, we test whether they're anemic. And so the hemoglobin and hematocrit is sort of the primary test for this. And the complete blood count, the test for anemia, is the super standard cheap test. And it will give you the size and shape of the blood cells. And so if you don't have low hemoglobin and hematocrit, and your cell shape is in the normal size, you actually don't have anemia. So some people will test iron specifically and ferritin, iron storage, and they'll use this and they'll say, well, you're iron deficient. And a lot of times they say, oh, and vegans, you crazy vegans are iron deficient. But really the brass tacks of the whole thing is whether you have anemia, hemoglobin, hematocrit drop in the complete blood count, the primary test. So many patients, I say, if they have like a little bit lower ferritin and they have a normal H&H, hemoglobin and hematocrit, I'm saying you're good. You're good. No need to pump up those iron stores so much, because maybe that is an inflammatory situation. We know that people who have iron overload syndromes have problems with multiple organs and liver problems. So if you actually are anemic, you are low anemic, you're low H&H, and your blood cells are small, microcytic anemia, then the number one in women of childbearing age is the menses, heavy menstrual flow. It's hard to keep up with the iron loss from menstrual iron blood loss. And so women's iron of childbearing age's iron requirements are like double. I think it's something like 18 milligrams or something like that, which is like double for men. So yeah, you're sometimes you can, if you're having severe iron deficiency anemia, you can take birth control and basically slow down or stop the menstrual flow so that you can allow your body to kind of build back up to a normal range. If it's like in dire straits, that is probably the first thing that you want to do. Stop the loss. And then a normal food can help you build up. Just like you're saying, greens and grains and nuts and seeds, and beans, they have the highest iron. There are things like blackstrap molasses, which can be used as a substitute. And I recommend the plant-based iron supplements, and we can go over those really quickly. So The problem with the typical ferrous sulfate iron supplements is that it makes you so constipated, and sometimes it makes you nauseous. So there are supplements like Solgar Gentle Iron or Flora Vital liquid iron supplements, or they call it Mega Food Blood Builder. These supplements are plant-based, and they tend to not cause as much constipation. So for females of childbearing age, it's 14.8 milligrams of iron. Good sources of iron include soy products, whole or enriched breads and grains, iron-fortified cereals, beans, green leafy vegetables. Blackstrap molasses contains 3.4 milligrams per tablespoon. And iron is increased by eating vitamin C rich foods like broccoli, greens, citrus. And then you want to watch out if you're eating your meal, you want to avoid tannin containing teas and antacids, which can bind with it and block the absorption of your iron. So iron's a big subject for vegans. And so if you were my patient, that's some of the things that we would talk about. We would try to go over it and strategically work it out. But you don't have to go on meat. You don't have to go on meat. That's for sure. Okay. Great question, Erica. Okay. We've got Vita Liberata. Since hearing your pastry bag explanation about the heartburn, I have not had any. Had no idea. Thank you. I love it. I love it. I had never heard about it. I've never heard of the pastry bag explanation, but I obviously I thought I liked it. I hadn't heard that from her. I just kind of made that up. And yeah, it kind of even looks like a pastry bag. Squirt, squirt. Yeah. Well, thank goodness. Thank goodness, Vita. I'm really glad to help. I hope that you never see heartburn again. Thanks for the props. All right. Yvonne Ode Remerink says, hello from Texas. Hello, Yvonne. Awesome. Okay. Rena says, thank you. I'll take those props. Thank you for the awesomeness. Okay. Do you have Susan Graham says, do you have a specific brand model of blood pressure monitor that you recommend? When I'm in the medical setting, my blood pressure seems to run high. When I take it myself at home here, it's much lower. Great. Susan, yeah, we worry about the white coat syndrome they talk about. So if you are, you go into traffic and you're stressed and you're trying to meet the appointment and you wait and this and that and this, and you finally sit, on the intake, they take your blood pressure and it's high. Meanwhile, you're wondering, oh my gosh, my doctor's probably going to tell me some horrible news or something. So there is all of that potentially causing a factor on that. So I do recommend home blood pressure monitoring. Let me look up the one that I recommend. On Amazon, they have lots of vital signs equipment that you can buy and have at in the comfort of your own home, and their budget. They are great. They're great prices. They've come down. So there's several of them. Here we go. I'm gonna just cut and paste my little recommendation here. I'm gonna see if I can cut and paste this right into the comments section. Pow! All right. Okay, so what I've pasted into the comment section there is the Lovia blood pressure monitor. It's $29. This may have changed since the supply chain, so maybe it's gone up $10 or $20. Paramed blood pressure monitor, $29. The 2021 Lasley blood pressure monitor, $46. It has a pretty large display. And then if you really, if you've got money to burn and you really love this kind of stuff, you can do CardioArm wireless BP monitor for $79. The more things that become wireless and they're connecting with your phones and sending information places, and That is cool. And that's the future of medicine. The only problem is if you buy one of those that's Wi-Fi connected, if you have problems with the Wi-Fi or figuring out or doing the Bluetooth problems, sometimes it's nice to have one that's a little bit more simple. So that's what I use. Those are the ones that I've used in my practice, and they work. So good idea, Susan. Home blood pressure monitoring can help you sort of avoid the diagnosis and inappropriate treatment of blood pressure if you have this white coat syndrome. Okay. Karen Bliss says, thank you so much. So helpful. Thank you. Thank you, Karen, for being here. Okay, Alexa says, what are some options for breakfast that are not oatmeal? Isn't that the only breakfast that we can eat, right? Is boxed cereal okay? I'm gluten intolerant. Well, where in England they eat beans for breakfast. There's toast, there's the avocado toast, there's toast with jam, mostly a fruit jam. But if we're really being healthy, I recommend a diet of fruit in the morning. Fruit. You can really fruit yourself. You can go fruit yourself. I did a raw experiment recently on January 2nd, and I ate nothing but, raw food, which contains mostly fruit and vegetables. And oh my God, I was so full. I couldn't eat enough calories to maintain my weight. So I ate 500 less calories than I was required for the day just by doing this raw experiment. And so for breakfast, I had, a couple bananas. I had some blueberries and strawberries. I just went to town. I even had a small handful of nuts, but that really, I realized that was a lot of calories just in that small handful of nuts, but it can really keep you full. Believe it or not. It sounds like, that it's not a stick to your ribs type of meal, but throw in some bananas there and some, high fiber berries and fruit and that sort of thing, and you will feel full and you'll feel satisfied. And I still eat oatmeal because, I like putting flaxseed in there and knowing that I'm getting that and the high fiber. There is a lot of fiber in oatmeal, and honestly, it keeps you regular. Fruit has fiber too, but there's something about the grains. When you look at a grain and you look at it, it's almost like a dehydrated thing. If you dehydrated it, the size of it wouldn't change too much. But if you dehydrated fruit, you'd see as all that water comes out of it, there's not very much left of it. So there's actually not, in comparison, grains have sort of a higher sort of fruit fiber component. And so that is kind of why I've still chosen to include the oatmeal, mainly so I can keep my fiber really high. All right. But Alexis, yeah, so there's other things, I don't recommend boxed cereals too much. If you do get a boxed cereal, take a look at the sugar and sodium in your boxed cereals. They make them taste good. They make them taste good, but you may not realize that you're getting almost a whole half day's worth of sodium from your cereal. So just kind of take a look at that. Even the healthy ones can really hit you hard with sodium. Okay. Strong work, Alexis. Great question. Lena. All right. Silberglade Wasserman says, hi, Dr. Harrington. Hello, Lena. Nice to see you. Okay. Vita says, nutritionfacts.org. I love that site. I feel like Dr. Greger needs a Nobel Prize for nutrition. They have info on oil pulling, which seems to be as good as just using plain water, if I recall correctly. Okay. I wouldn't doubt it necessarily, but yeah, check your evidence, and Dr. Greger's nutritionfacts.org just lays out the evidence really in very user-friendly terms, and so use that as a great reference. Oh my gosh. Thanks, Vita. Okay, Lisa Wyman says, I'm low on vitamin D by my labs, and my PA gave me a script for D3. The last MD had told me to take D2, which is more complete. So they both will work, but it seems like vitamin D3 is the most commonly prescribed vitamin D. It's
Here's what I found.
oh no, my watch is talking to me. Is the most effective form of vitamin D, but sometimes when people get the very, very high dose of vitamin D, the 50,000, it will be in the D2 form. But either way, if your vitamin D was low, you want to go ahead and supplement. For the only supplements I usually recommend on a regular basis for my patients are vitamin D and vitamin B12. I typically say the baseline for vitamin D would be at least 2,000. That's a little bit more than the RDA recommends. And that's because when I'm testing people for vitamin D, I oftentimes don't see it bump up over 30 unless they're in the 2,000 range. Now, if you're getting a lot of good sun on your bare skin, and you may not need as much. There's a lot of doctors in the vegan royalty folks, like Dr. McDougall and that sort of thing. They would say that it's ideal to get the vitamin D from the sun. But I am not a sun worshiper. I'm not a big sun guy because I have fair skin and I'll just be one walking skin cancer. So I've decided to take my vitamin D through supplements. So 2,000 is the base. If you really don't get very much sun at all, it might even be reasonable to take 5,000 units, international units of vitamin D3. All right. And you can always go ahead and get that tested and find out where you're at. The main benefits to start to get after you get 30, after you start to get 30 and ideal maybe 40 to 70. Thanks, Lisa. Okay, purity in plants. My mom wants to know if eating an exclusively plant-based diet could cause heart problems due to not getting enough protein. We are new to this way of eating. Okay, so this is a great question. The short answer is absolutely not. And the long answer is don't eat animal products because they contain cholesterol, which clogs the pipes. So you want to bring that down. So that is the number one question, is about protein. And anybody who's seen this channel more than once will know that this question comes up all the time. Am I getting enough protein on a plant-based diet? And that was the same question that I asked when I was basically told about this. Oh, you probably don't get enough protein. Well, we walk around like the Terminator, seeking protein out. We're like, protein. We're looking at our plate and looking for the protein. This kind of thought process just kind of needs to go. It just needs to go. When we eat any kind of plant foods, we're getting enough protein. So the concept is like, where does a gorilla get his protein? Or where does a cow or an elephant get their protein? They're huge. And so the analogy I always use is the thing that I always tell people about is, and I think this was taught to me by Dr. Greger on one of his videos, or maybe Dr. Milton Mills, a doctor who talks about anatomy, relative anatomy with mammals, is that when we're an infant, we're getting 5 to 6% of our calories from protein. And we're really doubling in size and we're getting bigger every day, Well, when you age and you're already grown, your house is built. So you don't need so many building blocks. And when we're doubling in size, we were only getting, 5, 6, 7% of our calories from protein. So it's okay to get much less protein. The goal is, the RDA type goal is 0.8 grams per kilogram of ideal body weight. So you have to put your height in ideal body weight calculator. You find that, and then it's 0.8. So that boils down to about 40 to 50 grams, depending on how tall you are. So this is totally doable with a plant-based diet. And if you run a little bit short, even that's no problem, because that's an overestimate. It's an overestimate. We could probably get down to 0.3 grams per kilogram, but we want to kind of overestimate if we're a child or a woman of childbearing age or pregnant women. You want to have closer to the 0.8 to make sure that everyone's getting the adequate amount. So this is totally doable with a plant-based diet. And you don't get any baggage. You don't get any baggage. You don't get the cholesterol with that protein. You're not getting saturated fat with that protein. Things like spinach are 40% protein. Who knew? So that is sort of the veil that comes off and the myths that are dispelled. Don't even think about protein. Just think about the food. What food are you eating, and is it healthy for you? And if you do the calculation with one of those apps, like the app called Chronometer, you can do a free app and you can put in all your food and you can see how much protein you're eating. You want to change the macros to 80-10-10 instead of the 40-30, 20 for the protein, carbs. And so carbs 80%, protein 10%, fat 10%. So long answer, but yes, tell your mom, please stop eating animal products. They contain a lot of cholesterol. You don't want clogging your heart arteries. Okay, Karen Hodgin says, how often should we take B12? Once a week, but wonder if we should take it daily. So the reason why I take it daily, Karen, is I'm afraid I'm going to forget a weekly pill. So 500 a day, if you're over 50, 1,000 a day, or 2,500 per week. So those seem like very high doses, but the absorption is such a problem that I think the idea of trickling it in is better. Trickling it in is better than taking a large dose and at the end of the week, because if I only do something once a week, I usually forget. I still forget doing it daily, keeping it by my toothbrush. So I shoot for daily. Thanks for the question, Karen. Okay, man, the questions keep coming, so we're already over time. So let's see what we can accomplish here. Okay. Okay. Lena Silberglied Wasserman says, as a new vegan, what are the best supplements or foods to help with osteopenia? Thank you. Okay, osteopenia is low bone density. Low bone density. So you have osteopenia, then you have, that's the middle between that osteoporosis. Osteoporosis, low bone density. One of the things that the number one thing that improves your bone density is weightlifting or weight-bearing exercises. So I use the analogy of when people go to space, there's no gravity on the bones and there's no weight on the bones. I mean, there's no weight being experienced on the bones. It's weightless. So they quickly start to dissolve. It's a use it or lose it phenomenon. And so the bones will trigger more calcium absorption, and your body will be triggered for, adding bone to your body if they're being used. So yes, you should, if you do have osteopenia, you should get 1,200 milligrams of calcium, and you should make sure you're getting adequate vitamin D. You won't get adequate calcium absorption, even though you're eating 1,200, unless you're having adequate vitamin D. So get those taken care of. We used to just flog people by telling them to take a lot of calcium, but we learned through the Nurses' Health Study that taking high doses of calcium could actually be problematic, maybe raise your risk for blood clotting illnesses. So you want to use one of those food logging apps to help you figure out what is your calcium status, how much calcium you're getting. So if 1,200 is what you're shooting for and you get 800 through your typical diet, high in greens and beans and grains, you will be able to take a smaller amount of that supplement, a more safer amount. So that's what I recommend. In terms of brands, I don't like to get too brandsy. I don't like to, really stand behind, a certain brand because I like to try to stay as neutral as possible. But Garden of Life has pretty good variety of vegan brands, vegan supplements. And so like a spray for B12 and so for the kids and that sort of thing. If you have kids, they should also be on B12s and vitamin D, similar to the adult dose. So make sure that they're getting it as well. Okay. Karen Hodgin says, how often should we, I think we already got that one. Sorry, Karen. Okay. Okay. Deanne Yanez says, I found out that I have Sjogren's syndrome, and I'm new to this syndrome. All I know is my hair for over a year has fallen out and always have back pain. Okay, so if you want to be seen, definitely make an appointment with me, and we can talk more about it. Sjogren syndromes, dry eye, dry mouth, and autoimmune illness can be really problematic. Um, I haven't heard tons of case reports of reversal with the plant-based diet, although with most autoimmune diseases, things improve dramatically. You want to be on the best diet for, the best diet for blood pressure and for diabetes and for multiple sclerosis and ulcerative colitis is all the plant-based diet. So you would hope that it would put you in the best situation for Sjogren's disease. So if you were seeing me, I would make sure that we include a rheumatologist on our, call in reinforcements, call in the specialist, and we would work through it that way. Going forward with their advice as well on how to handle it. Okay, Deanne says, I'm starting to take vitamin B, C, calcium, fish oil, and I'm just trying to prepare myself to know that my body is going to get worse. What else do you think I should take, and what kind of teas I want to do? Natural stuff. Okay. So once again, I like using this chronometer app to find out what you're missing. What you'll sometimes find is that you don't get enough zinc, you don't get enough selenium, and you don't get enough calcium. But if you're eating a proper sort of vegan diet that's high in greens, beans, and grains, you get most of your vitamins and minerals. And so what I don't like to see is people walk out of GNC with $300 worth of supplements. Certainly you want to take B12 and vitamin D3. I don't even recommend taking additional omega-3 anymore. That's something I used to recommend, but now there's concerns about prolonged supplementation with omega-3s, and the benefits are not what we thought they were. So, but I do recommend people take omega-3s through ground flax, so that you're having that every day. That way, your body will make the long-chain omega-3s that it needs by itself without hitting it up too high with omega-3s, EPA and DHA preformed. You allow your body to form what it wants. So I hope that helps, Deanne. That's kind of what I recommend. The most important thing is that you get on the plant-based diet. One of the concerns is with a high-fat diet. A high-fat diet, you've heard the term leaky gut. Leaky gut gets thrown around so much nowadays, no doubt. But some of the problems with a high-fat diet is we worry about leaky gut. And that is kind of one of the mechanisms which I believe that rheumatoid conditions kind of flare. It's the idea that if the gut is somewhat allows proteins to pass that aren't broken down into their component amino acids, the body can create antibodies against these larger proteins, and animal product proteins would have more likely to appear like a protein that is in our system. So the molecular mimicry, if it looks a lot like it, you could have cross reaction with your own body. And so I feel like you're getting rid of a lot of problems by eliminating the animal products, but it's key to keep the fat down, very, very low fat, less than 10% or less, to try to improve the gut health, leaky gut. So good question, Deanne. Okay, I think I'm starting to run out of steam here. Debbie Carroll says, any plans to get in with Georgia soon, please? I will be submitting the application this spring. Hopefully by the end of the spring, we'll have Georgia. Okay. Oh man, we've got a lot of questions. Boom, boom, boom. All right. Okay. Deepthi Rao says, hi, Dr. Harrington. Unfortunately, I had to start on a low dose of valsartan for a temporary period of time, and I eat whole food plant-based diet. Valsartan unfortunately causes constipation. Should I ask for a different medicine, or do you think all BP medications have the same effect? Okay, well, if your blood pressure is really high, the first thing that I recommend that you really tightly monitor is sodium. Sodium is the number one. Sodium, we know that where sodium goes, water goes. So you retain more fluid, and when but sodium also affects the lining, the vasculature. I kind of think of a little caterpillar, and people have put salt on the caterpillar and it messes it all up. This is kind of what's happening to your cells. If the sodium is too high, it's just damaging. It's just damaging to the cells. So, and the body's always trying to regulate this. So the number one thing that you want to look at is sodium. Then the next thing that you want to make sure is like decrease, not having animal products. That just causes more protein through your filter, through the kidney filter, which kidneys are responsible for monitoring your blood pressure. Hyperfiltration causing the kidney to potentially have problems, and blood pressure gets raised as a side effect. So the question is, should you come off of valsartan because of constipation? I would say yes. Ask your doctor. There's lots of different blood pressure medicines. They all have side effects, though. They all have, but ideally, the only side effect that you'll have is if you're overtreated with dizziness, and dizziness could be a suggestion you're overtreated, so you could do a smaller dose, or dizziness is a sign that you're starting to eat very low sodium, low animal proteins, and you're improving your blood pressure, and now you're overtreated on the normal dose. So sometimes dizziness can be a good sign for blood pressure. So this is kind of a weird this thing, but constipation. People have really severe constipation. Always remember that you have one super tool for getting rid of constipation. If you have episodic constipation, like you went on a trip, whenever you go on a trip, you leave your colon at home. For some reason, everyone gets constipated when they travel. It's awful. But don't. There's typical over-the-counter medicines like Miralax, a non-addictive, a non-habit-forming laxative, is really good. You can titrate it up. 1 is good. 3 is sometimes better. 3 doses throughout the day. It's safe. It's kind of like medical prune juice, and it doesn't absorb. So Miralax is first line. But if instead of taking a bunch of stimulant laxatives and all these kind of things, don't forget about the use of an enema. An enema. You can take a bulb syringe enema and squirt some lukewarm water into the colon, and boom, it works. And then you're just kind of done with that, and you kind of keep things moving. So always consider that as an option. So, but yes, if it's causing you constipation routinely and that's new, there's lots of options. There's calcium channel blockers, there's ACE inhibitors, there's beta blockers, there's diuretics. So lots of options to get you bridged to a time where you come off your blood pressure. Kathy Tarr says, raw for the win. Okay, great. Yes, there's always the big debate, raw versus cooked, raw versus cooked. That is a big debate in the vegan community. But you'll notice that a lot of folks who do the raw diet tend to be, they tend to have rapid weight loss, and it's probably because the bulk and the low calorie density of the food, and it allows them to get to a more natural body weight. And so one of the things I do recommend is I have patients on all sides of the spectrum. I have patients who are overweight. I have patients who are underweight, and cooked food still has its place. Cooked food definitely has its place. When you think of cooked, think it's pre-digested. It's easier to eat. And so patients who are struggling, you want to make sure you're including some cooked food in your diet. You allow for a little bit richer food, more calorie dense, and you can get those calories in. So if you're having problems with losing weight and you're hitting a plateau, I say go raw. You won't be sad. You'll be super happy. Okay, thank you, Kathy. Okay, we've got Lena. You are the best. Thank you. Alexis, Ford Green, thank you for answering my question. Absolutely. Okay. Oh my Lord, I think I may have to just call this. I've gone way over, and it's been a real pleasure to see everybody out who's asking questions, and I just want to say thank you so much. I stay vegan, stay vegan. Come see me next week, and I look forward to it. Thanks again. Take care.